Happy Earth Day. Today we're going to be getting into some tips and tricks that I use around my kitchen to help make it more sustainable. This is going to be by no means a zero waste kitchen tour. You're definitely going to see some plastic packaging and some areas that are not ideal, but we're all on a journey and we're all doing our best. And I thought that it being Earth Day and me being such a fan of spending time in the kitchen and cooking, this would be a great chance to talk to you about things that I do to try to reduce my waste in the kitchen and things that you could try as well. I also just want to highlight that this is the first time anybody is seeing my kitchen. For the last year of medical school, when I was uploading videos, I was actually couch surfing. So I posted a video for my parents' kitchen, for my aunt's kitchen, for my sister's kitchen. I was in a hotel sometimes, and it is just this past year that I've gotten to kind of put down roots and set up the kitchen the way I like it and kind of have my own space to cook, and I've really been enjoying it. So I'm excited for you to get to see it, and I'm excited for you to see all the things that I do in here to try to reduce my impact on the environment in the space that I love, which is cooking in the kitchen. So most of us are familiar with the 3 R's of environmental friendliness, those being reduce, reuse, and recycle. Those have probably been drilled into us since a small age, but what we weren't necessarily taught, or at least I wasn't necessarily taught, that that's the order of importance. The most important thing to do when you're trying to help the environment is to reduce your overall consumption. The second most important thing is reusing stuff you already have, and then lastly is recycling it and disposing of it appropriately. For that reason, I'm going to talk about those 3 R's in that order in this video. First, all the ways that I'm reducing use and consumption around my kitchen. Secondly, how I reuse things and try to repurpose things. And lastly, about how we recycle and our waste management system around here. So the first and most important R is to reduce. The number one thing that I think we can all do is reducing our amount of total food waste. So the first thing that I do to help me reduce the amount of food waste in this kitchen is always have a grocery list. We have a list right next to the fridge. Whenever we run out of something, we write it down. And that helps me when I go to the store not be buying duplicates of things we already have, buying things kind of on a whim that we don't end up getting back to. We really try to stick to the list. Kind of in tandem with that, number 2 is having a meal plan. By having a meal plan and kind of knowing in your head what you are going to be eating over the next few days, that helps you reduce the overall amount of waste. I know if something is about to go bad, then I'm going to move that up in the meal plan. Or that we have an abundance of something, I might try to use it in multiple ways throughout the week so that none of it goes to waste. I also try to reduce food waste by using our freezer. Whenever there's leftovers or if something's on sale and I want to buy a lot of it, but I'm worried that something's going to go bad before I get a chance to eat all of it, is using the freezer so that I don't need to be wasting any of that food. The third big reduce piece in our kitchen, and that I think a lot of people is becoming more popular now, is reducing our amount of meat consumption. I posted a video a few years ago about being a flexitarian and what that means. In our household, myself and my fiance, we both still eat meat, we eat dairy, we're not vegans by any means, but we reduce the amount of meat and animal products that we eat, in part for our health, in part for our wallet, and it's also really good for the environment. So that is another great way to reduce in your kitchen. The other big area of reducing is not just reducing the amount of food that you're wasting, but also the amount of packaging that food comes in. One way that I do this is I started a little herb garden in our window. It's a very small step and it doesn't save a whole lot of packaging if you're not really big into Dazel or Bill, but it's one less thing that I have to go to the grocery store, bring home wrapped in plastic. I can just pick it off from the windowsill. It's a really fun way to enjoy my time in the kitchen, and it's also a low waste option. Another way that we reduce our overall packaging is we don't use single-use plastic grocery bags. I think most folks at this point have several canvas or cotton reusable bags. We try to use those whenever we can. There were times earlier in the pandemic where some grocery stores weren't allowing you to bring your own bag, but whenever we can, we do try to reuse our own grocery bags because there's just no need to be carrying things in and out of flimsy plastic bags that you're only going to use for 10 seconds. Another way we reduce the total amount of packaging in this house is by having a really well-stocked spice cabinet. So we have every imaginable kind of oil and vinegar and seasoning that we would regularly get in the rotation of our meals. And that keeps me from buying a bottle of ranch and a bottle of salad dressing and a packet of taco seasoning and all these other individually packaged items, because I can just make those all from my own pantry. So there are a lot of little packaged up things in the spice cabinet, but by having the bare bones ingredients, that kind of saves us from getting a bunch of other little specialty items, because I can create most of those from what I already have on hand. Another place we reduce our packaging is by popping our own popcorn. We have a popcorn maker that was gifted to me from my grandma. It's really old, but it gets the job done. And then we buy one bag of the popcorn kernels. That one bag is literally dozens and dozens and dozens of bowls of popcorn. I should measure out exactly what the servings is. But it just takes a little spoonful of kernels, will pop into a huge bowl of popcorn. And then we don't have dozens of little individually wrapped bags of popcorn. We reduce our overall packaging that way, and then we get to season it ourselves with that plentiful spice cabinet. The last way that we reduce the amount of packaging in this household is by not buying pre-cut produce or pre-packaged items. We try to buy whole ingredients or intact foods whenever we can. I just can chop it up with my own knife and we save money, and we also don't need it to be pre-wrapped up and packaged for us. After reduce comes reuse. And in this kitchen, we try to reuse anything we can and repurpose it and give it more life. Whenever I think about reusing in the kitchen, the first thing that comes to mind is eating leftovers. I would hate to put all this energy into making a meal. Somebody went through all the effort to make it and grow it, and then I prepared it and we had leftovers and I just chucked them, or I let them get moldy, and I am not a fan of that. So we reuse any leftover food we have. We'll either eat it that way or try to repurpose it in new food. If I ever make rice, I will save the leftovers, and later in the week we have fried rice. So that's reusing a food that was otherwise gonna get tossed. Another way we reuse food in this kitchen is by reusing our food scraps to make other food. So one way that I do this is I have a stock bag in the freezer. I'll throw anything in there from onion peels to carrot tops. If we have chicken one night and there's chicken bones left over, those will go in the stock bag. And then eventually I boil it with salt and water and I make my own stock. And that gives all of those food scraps that were otherwise just gonna go out the window, that gives them a new life and they get to make more food for us. And I don't have to buy something else at the store, like a can or a box of stock that comes in packaging and then I haul home. I can reuse things that I already have. Another way we reuse food scraps, or what could be considered food waste, is by saving our bacon fat. We do eat meat in this household, and when we do eat bacon, I want to make it last as long as possible and put it to good use. So when bacon fat renders out and it's still hot, it's liquid and you can collect it. It'll solidify into like a Crisco butter consistency, and you can use it just like butter or Crisco or other kind of solid shortenings. Sometimes if we have a vegetarian meal, but I would like it to taste more meaty, then we'll use bacon fat. And in my book, that's just as good as having a vegetarian meal, because that was otherwise food waste. That was gonna go out the window. So we use our food scraps wherever we can. Beyond just reusing food in the form of leftovers and repurposing those food scraps, there are reusable products that we use in this kitchen every day instead of single-use products. One of the first purchases when we moved into this kitchen was a coffee maker. We didn't have one, and we both drink a lot of coffee. And with that, we also got the reusable filter that fits in our specific coffee maker. Since then, we've made about 300, maybe 400 pots of coffee, and we have used that reusable coffee filter for every single one of them, and it shows no signs of wear or tear at this point. It's going strong. That's one less thing that I have to toss out into our garbage bin every day. Another reusable product that we have here is something that not everybody would think of as reusable, but that's Ziploc bags. It's aluminum foil, plastic cutlery, all those things that are kind of marketed to us as single use. You can actually just use multiple times. I haven't found it in the budget yet to get a ton of those silicone Ziploc reusable container things. We moved in with a box of Ziplocs and we just rinsed them out and reused them, and we've been here almost a year now and we still have that same box. I am not afraid to toss them if they do get a bunch of holes or they get really grimy, but for the most part, just a quick rinse and stick them back in the drawer. Same with the tin foil. But if I want some tin foil just to like melt some cheese or to keep something from burning, then that tinfoil doesn't normally get even really dirty. So I'll rinse that off, wipe it off, fold it up, goes back in the drawer. And we're told is this is a single-use product. You use it, you throw it out, you buy more of it. Something that we can question and go, that's not really true. I can clean it and get more use out of it. Other reusable things that we have around the kitchen are towels. We have towels, dishcloths, rags. We don't really use paper towels. We also don't have any single-use paper products like paper plates or cups or bowls. We wash them. We end up doing some more dishes and some more laundry by having these reusable items, but I'd rather be doing that than be filling up our trash bag and taking it out to the curb every day with single-use stuff that we just have to toss. The last thing that we reuse in this kitchen are any food packaging that we can repurpose as other kinds of packaging. So I have a salsa jar that is now holding my leftover frying oil. I have an old candle jar that is now holding utensils. Any kind of packaging that is, oh, that's a good size, or that has a nice seal, that we can put to good use, we'll try to rinse out and hang on to and use again someday. The last R is, of course, recycling. So I think most people are pretty familiar with recycling. It can be a little tricky to do correctly. Most municipalities have different rules about what can be recycled. We keep by our sink kind of our garbage, recycling, and compost bins all together. And right across from that, magneted to our fridge, is the recycling guide for our county. So if I ever wonder, like, can this go in the recycling? Do I have to leave the lid on this one? Should I rinse it out? I can look in there and just make sure that everything's going in the right place. Most places will not let you recycle pizza boxes. They're too greasy. We get pizza once or twice a month because it's delicious, and I would hate to be tossing that pizza box. Fortunately, our county will compost pizza boxes. We set those aside and take those to the composting facility when we take our buckets in. We do compost here as well. St. Paul doesn't pick up curbside compost, but there are a lot of locations around the city that you can take your compost to. They also will give you a free bucket. So when we moved in, I just showed up at one of the composting facilities and gave them my address, and they gave us a little bucket to have in our kitchen. I can get new bags whenever I take the compost in. They'll give me new compostable liners. I did find that I was filling up the bucket quite frequently and needing to make frequent trips to the compost facilities. So I did invest in a 5-gallon bucket that lives in the basement. Then I can take the little bags, fill up the big bucket. Then I'm not making quite as many trips to the composting facility every week. And I'm really glad that it's offered in our area. In the same vein of recycling, buying things secondhand and kind of recycling things that somebody else used to own and loved and didn't want to throw it away and send it to the landfill, so I am going to recycle it and bring it into my kitchen. We have thrifted our pans. We have gotten a lot of small appliances secondhand from friends and family. I try to thrift or find items secondhand whenever I can so that I can recycle something that somebody else didn't want anymore and keep that from going to landfill and not be creating demand for new products. Thank you so much for joining me on this Earth Day. We are all on a journey trying to get better and do better for the planet. If you have any comments, critiques, feedback, suggestions for things I could be doing differently, things we could all be doing differently, please leave it in the comments below. If you like content like this, go ahead and give it a like. If you want to see more, let me know and I can do more informational videos. Otherwise, if you want to see recipes, vlogs, there's some of that already on the channel for you to go check out. Thank you so much for watching and have a happy Earth Day.